scary thing, surgery, under anesthesia, and well, usually everything's fine, but once in a while something goes wrong, so you never know. So we pray before surgery, as we should. And I like to think about where Jesus said, I will never leave you or forsake you. So that's the good news, is that there is a presence with us always, the presence of Christ with us. I look for heroes, do you? I love when I find a good story, and sometimes the most wonderful stories are at the most difficult times. This last week, I believe, was in part Holocaust remembrance. And so I have a story from the Holocaust for you about Janusz Korczak. That's a more Polish way of saying it. In the Hebrew or the Yiddish would be more like Henrik Goldschmidt. But he was like a psychologist, psychiatrist, children's specialist. And he had an orphanage where he believed in treating children with respect, teaching them how to think for themselves. He had little children's councils, and he had them do a children's newsletter, and he loved these kids. And they were Jewish. He was Jewish. And when they went into the Warsaw Ghetto, he kept his orphanage together. And when they moved him into smaller quarters, he kept his orphanage together. And he worked and worked and worked to try to get enough food to feed the children that he loved. He was given a number of opportunities to leave and escape, but he would not leave his children. The day came when they took them to put them on the train to go to die, as we all know the story. And he was offered one more time a way out. He would not leave his children. He knew he couldn't save them, but he wasn't going to leave them. He went with them to the gas chambers. Janusz Korczak, I say his name. The reason why I say it is because he's a hero, and it should have his name said and remembered. But it also is how Jesus is with us. He would not leave us, but stayed with us. At his ascension, he says, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. And so we come to today's Bible story of how Jesus was with the two on the road to Emmaus. I hope and pray you'll hear it with new ears today, and that it will bring new meaning into your life, and you'll see how this very much applies to us. This is how it goes. On that same day, this would be the day of the resurrection, the Sunday, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And talking with each other about all these things that had happened, while they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. So I want you to hear that little piece, first of all. Know it absolutely applies to you and to me, to us. And that is, we too are on a journey. We may not be going to Emmaus, we might be going to home, but we're journeying through our life, and we're journeying together. And Jesus himself could easily be with us, but our eyes also would be kept from recognizing him. Our circumstance is exactly the same. That Jesus could be among us, but we can't see it. Make sense? That's how it works for me. Looking for Jesus. I wonder. So their eyes were kept from recognizing him. Why? I don't know why we don't see better than we do, but we just don't. If we could see things as God sees things, boy, it would change everything. But we don't have the God eye. We have our own eyes, and we are so blind. It's our condition. It's our condition that God is with us, but we don't see it. So, Jesus comes near, goes with them, but their eyes are kept from recognizing him. And they say to him, and he says to them, what are you discussing with each other while you walk along? And so it says they stood still, looking sad. Have you ever known a person like that? They're walking and talking, but then a serious question comes and it stops you in your tracks? That's what happened. It's like they were walking and they stopped walking. Sometimes if you're walking and talking and you get to something that's so serious and so dear to you, you forget to walk and you just stop and speak from a more stable position. It's like these words are so important, we just can't walk and you just have to stop and focus on the words completely. So they stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place in these days? He asked them, what things? Jesus loves questions. Jesus absolutely loves questions. And if you think you're going to go to Jesus and have your questions answered, you're much more likely to go have your answers questioned. He loves questions. He loves questions like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? What things are going on? They replied, the things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it's now the third day since these things took place. And moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and they did not find his body there. They came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. And that's the second part. Some people see visions, but it's not you, and it's not now. It's like some women saw a vision, and we're wondering what's going on. And this is exactly our condition too. We hear about other people in other places, usually long ago, who have had some experience of God. We wonder if there could be something to it. But we haven't experienced Jesus ourselves. We haven't experienced the divine presence like that ourselves. But we hear stories of other people who've had something, who are saying there is something to this life. There is something of the divine present in our journey. There is something about this Jesus Christ. And we've heard this from these women this morning, they say. So in the same way, we tend to think that the vision of the presence of God, which is represented in Jesus Christ here, is somebody else, not us. Some other time, not now. And some other place, not here. This is one of the reasons why I've never gone to Jerusalem. I have a lot of issues with Israel and Palestine. I think it's a very difficult place. But I also know I don't need to go to Jerusalem to meet God. God is everywhere. But isn't that it? Somebody else, not you. In a way, it lets you off the hook. Some other time, not now. And some other place, not here. But what if God should indeed appear in some fashion to you here now. What would that be like? Could that happen? If it happened, how much would it happen? A little bit or a lot? Because that's the other thing. I think this thing can happen in a little bit way and in a lot way. The little bit way is when you have this sense of something beautiful is here, some love is here, something transcendent is here, but it's not very strong. It's like a little whisper. It's like a little idea. It's like a little warming of the heart. It can be like that. Or it can be like, whoa, the whole room is shining. No, my goodness, it can go all over the place. But the thing is, these little things or big things are not to be turned away from. They're our heritage as people of God. So anyway, these women had a vision, had a dream, had a vision of angels. And some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him. Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared." By foolish, the term is the fool has said in his heart there is no God. One of the 7 deadly sins is supposed to be pride. It has to do with thinking that you can do it alone, without God, without others. There's a kind of closeness to the heart. That's what foolishness is. So the openness, the wise heart is a heart that it opens to reality. But oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe. And their foolishness and slow of heart is paired together. So how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory? And this is Jesus with them, explaining the scriptures to them about him. In the same way, if we would take the scriptures and really take our time with them, maybe we would find them to be very, very much God's word and alive. I'll read a little further. Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them all the things about himself and all the scriptures. Now, I've been to seminary, and I read a lot of books, and I've done some language studies, and I love what scholars write, and I think what they say is important. But I also know there's a way of coming to the scriptures that's devotional, that has a way of warming the heart, that's more than just informing the mind. And so I've got a timer, I've got a Bible, I've got a notebook, and I want you to know I am going through the Bible slowly. I am not trying to read through the Bible again in a year. In fact, I don't care how far this goes. The point is not to hurry. Not to hurry. How much better it would be for me that I knew one scripture well and 1,000 scriptures quickly passed by. And I hope it makes my preaching better. I know that it's given me insights that I don't think I could have gotten any other way. This is a way of taking time with the scriptures and letting Jesus, letting the Holy Spirit, letting the presence of God make the things come alive in your life. There's a way of studying the scriptures that's the most common way is not to at all. The second most common way is to get all caught up in the head, reading commentaries and stuff. And the third way, I think the way of the heart, is the way I'm even now just learning, but it's new every morning, and that is to really, really take time and wait and let things come as they will. I am in no rush. I can go for a week on one scripture, and I'm in no hurry to move on to the next one until it's time. So I think Jesus there opened the scriptures to them, and I believe God will open the scriptures to you if you choose to do it. The scriptures are not so simple as people pretend they are. So it takes some time. So, as they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as they were going on. So he was keeping on going. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it's almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So, like last night when I was at the restaurant at the Spaghetti Steakhouse, I'm thinking, what does that say it's strong? But it was when I was trying to get Evie to sit down. We were all standing around going, Evie, have a seat. Evie, sit down. I was like, strongly, Evie. She wanted to stand. But it's like there was people standing everywhere, and I was trying to offer a seat to a lady, which is what I was raised to do. So I strongly urged you to sit down, right? And that's what they were doing. They strongly urged Jesus, stay with us. Don't go out in the country. Don't be out there alone. Come stay with us. What a correct thing to do. What a correct thing to do. They didn't know it was Jesus. Their eyes were closed to it. But when they offered hospitality, which is the cover-to-cover value of the Bible, they were doing the right thing. They offered hospitality, and it ended up being hospitality to Jesus himself. How we need to say to Jesus, stay with us, come to my house, stay at my house. Christianity has very much become something where we meet Jesus on Sunday in church, which we think of as the building, not so much as in our house. Just think about that. One thing you could get is say, Jesus, come to my house. Spirit of God, come to my house. Presence of God, come to my house. You are welcome in my house. And so they did. And Jesus did. Because it was almost evening, the day is now nearly over. They didn't want him to be like the Samaritan guy on the road to, get beat up and mugged. It was the right thing to do. He's somebody, they had a place to stay. He was someone who needed a place to stay, and they gave him a place to stay. This is before Motel 6 and Motel 8 and the High 8 and everything else. This is before they had campers. This was what people stayed with people. When Peter and I went to Cleveland for this big thing, we stayed with her sister. It's what people did. They didn't have hotels like we do now. So they needed, Jesus as a stranger needed this, and they offered it. He did. So they come, they sit down when he was at the table with them. So they're eating together like you do. You don't come to the house and say, oh, we're having supper. I hope you have something for yourself somewhere. Of course not. You break bread together. And Jesus then, it says, when he was at the table with them, he took the bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. You can see communion in that, can't you? How many times had they seen Jesus take bread and break it and hand it out? Now it says, then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. It was like suddenly they realized that Jesus was with them in the breaking of the bread. Suddenly they realized that the presence of God was not at some other place and some other time with somebody else, but was with them exactly right there and right then, that moment. And then guess what happens? He vanished. And then he vanished. What is that about? I'll tell you what it's about. It's how it is. It's exactly how it is with these spiritual visions and things. They don't last. Sometimes they're just a pop and they're gone. But if you have one, you never forget it because it's a gift from God. But in a way, we kind of forget it because we live our lives almost forgetting that the gift was given. It's like my dad gave me money to stick in my wallet in case I needed it, and then I forgot I had it. So it's like, oh man, where am I going to get the money for the subway, or where am I going to get the money, and the money's in my pocket all along. And we forget that God's given us the gift, and we live our life as if we don't have it. So yes, we do forget, but in a way we also remember. And then you go, oh yeah, God gave me that money, I've got money, so I'm going to be all right. And so in the same way, he vanished. Why? That's just how it is. That's how it is. Many of us have had dreams that were special dreams. Maybe not often, and maybe even visions. Maybe not often, but enough. but it vanishes, it goes away. So what do? They said to each other, were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us? That same hour they got up and returned. So after the vision, they went back on the journey, back to the church at large, back to the other disciples. They got up and returned to Jerusalem. Now they're walking as the sun is setting. They have had a vision and they can't sit still now. Oh, one more thing I need to tell you about. The part of this scripture that I think gets missed is when Jesus vanished, he didn't leave. He was just as much there, but they couldn't see him. Just like he was there before, but they didn't recognize him. Because Jesus said, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. And I believe Jesus Christ represents God's presence with us, and so you could say God's presence is with us always. Jesus Christ's presence is with us always. But sometimes we see it, and sometimes we don't. And sometimes we see it just for a minute, and then it goes away. But what do you do when you've seen something? It calls you to something. And it called them to go back and tell about it. They went right back to their friends in Jerusalem. And I think that this is why spiritual communities gather. Whatever religion it is, there's some vision that has been seen, and then people come together with others to be together around the vision. In this case, the vision of God with us and the risen Christ. So they got up and returned to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and their companions gathered together. I imagine that means the women, men and women. They were saying, the Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon. Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. So normally this would be something we preach before communion, and we would say, isn't it great? And now as soon as I say, isn't it great, I see I'm over. I'm like 3 minutes over on the clock up there. What am I going to do? I'll tell you what. So I was on this retreat that you guys paid for. Thank you very much. Last year, when I went to the Quaker meeting, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. But one of the things they said is, share an experience that you had with God. And they split us up into groups for pairs. And so I ended up with this woman I'd never met before, and I still don't remember her name, never saw her before. She looked like an ordinary person. Let's say she looked like you. An ordinary person. You wouldn't look at her and go, whoa, I'll bet she's had a vision. She looked normal. And this is the story she told. She said, I'm telling you this because they went back and they told their vision. I'm going to tell you her vision, and I'm going to tell you one of my vision experiences. Because it's a way of being together. So anyway, what she said is there was this person that they knew that people didn't like because she was difficult. She was wounded, and she was challenging, and people didn't like her very much. And she was talking with her, and the heavens opened. This is an ordinary person. This woman is not given to this. It's like, this doesn't happen to her all the time. But this happened to her once. And she saw into the woman's heart. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And she realized that all the woundedness of this woman was like a flower that's trying to grow up between the cracks of the sidewalk. You know, it's wounded, it's bent, it's weak, it's frail, it's not right. But it's not because the flower is wrong, it's because it's been bent and twisted and hurt in life. And she saw the heart of this woman was beautiful. And then it passed and went away. But she never forgot it. She told me about it, and I was astounded because I thought, how many other people are out there in this world that have had visions that are not just like someone having a psychotic breakdown and they're oppressed by it, or have a vision of grandeur and they think that they're, but these kinds of visions that lead to love and wholeness, visions I think that are from God. And And there it was, and she had it, and it changed her life. So I'll tell you mine too. I have a few in my life. This was like 40 years ago, so I'm telling you, these things are not common. But I had an experience where it was like the ocean of God came over me. I felt like I was in an ocean of love and God's presence. It happened in the night. It happened at Camp Sotara. It happened after some prayer down by the dock. I was awash in God's presence for what seemed like hours, and I'll never forget it. The reason why I tell you this is I thought that visions and things are supposed to be for us and we should keep them to ourselves, and maybe there's something to that. It says Mary hid these things in her heart and didn't share them, and there's a time for being quiet, but there's also a time for speaking them, because I think it encourages others, and I think and we can see that maybe we're not alone. And if it's a good vision and an encouraging vision, there they saw Jesus in the breaking of the bread, and they didn't keep it to themselves, and they went back and told about it. So that's why I told it. So this is how I want you to see this. You're on a journey. You don't see that God is with you, but God is always with you. Sometimes God opens your eyes and you suddenly see, and then you close your eyes again and it's gone. But it doesn't mean it wasn't real, and it's a part of the journey. So that's how it's going to go for you. Big visions, little visions, off and on throughout the journey. So the thing I want you to do from this sermon today, please don't just honor the times when you're stumbling in the dark blindly, thinking that that's the reality of your life. Think of the time when you were the closest, most loved, most blessed, most intimate, and aware of the beauty of God with you. And remember that that is the real